So,
are you recording?
I am recording.
Oh, okay.
I like there are parts about it I like. There are parts I don't like.
All right. Well, so what do we watch?
Okay. Yes. Sorry. This is Longlegs. It's a murder mystery film. It has some supernatural elements actually kind of forced onto you. There's it's just about a girl trying to solve a case, and then it's a lot more personal than you think, and that's kind of what happens. Is that pretty close to a quick synopsis?
It's like
it's cryptic, it's spooky, it's again they kind of throw in some supernatural stuff.
Yeah, it's about an FBI agent who is trying to figure out the details of a serial killer.
Yeah,
who speaks in cryptic.
Which
riddles, puzzles.
That's kind of funny because that's what I say. That's what I was going to say first was like the very beginning. You're like, oh, it's like a Zodiac killer type movie where like you decipher these cryptic parts, and then they just kind of abandons that after it talks about this triangle and the circumstances surrounding it, like the triangle, are just way too like convenient for the plot. Like she writes in a triangle to find out like the pattern of people that this guy has killed. And it's funny because if the page was written any way different, then the triangle that she found on the paper wouldn't line up, right? It just felt way too convenient for the plot, and it felt a little silly. Like the whole cryptic thing, it was like it felt like this movie was like just part, like the first part was just the cop part, and the second part was like the supernatural scary part.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about how, like when you're talking about the triangle thing, what you're describing is as she is trying to piece together the details of this case, she is discovering clues almost in unnatural ways. Like she's made a calendar in a horizontal layout where the months are vertical and then every day is horizontal. It's a pretty unconventional way of writing out the days of a year.
Yeah.
But she's like in the library, she's circling the dates of the murders, and then she's like, wait, hold on, I have this book next to me. And she's flipping through the book.
What was the book called? What was the book?
It was called like The 9 Circles of Hell.
The 9 Circles of Hell.
She's flipping through the book, and she's like, wait, in the middle of the book is a triangle, and it's inverted. And if I look at the calendar I just made, and I draw a through line through all the murders, it's also an inverted triangle. And like, it does a lot of this stuff in a movie that is like, this is funny because it's a lot like another Nicolas Cage movie. It's a lot like what's the name of that? National Treasure, right? It's a lot like the movie where he's like, the Declaration of Independence has 1,200 words, and if you take 1,200 words divided by how many days did it take for them to draft it? It's like taking inconsequential things and piecing it together and somehow solving a mystery.
Yeah.
All right, so like, let me just cut to the chase. Like, I thought that this movie was way too out there. Like, it needed to be way more grounded to be, to me, more compelling of a movie. It gets lost in its style a lot. Mm-hmm. It gets really lost in its style. Mm-hmm. It is like, it does a good job of having this creepy atmosphere. It's got a unique style to it. It's got the visual aspect there, but it gets so lost in it. It gets so swept up into it just at no point do I feel like people talk to each other naturally. It's almost like they're in this own little world and they constantly talk to each other in coded languages and coded discussions. It just doesn't feel very grounded to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Just it doesn't feel like it kind of outplayed itself in some ways. I think some things are just so overdone and so over the top and so like obvious to you that like the first thing you think of is like, You start to get to know her mom, and you don't know exactly the whole scoop, but you know that she is just a weird person. She's just weird. And not that we're saying that, like, you know, we knew the twists at the end. There is a twist. Obviously, this does have spoilers, of course. But, you know, it just feels like it wasn't too... It didn't really mean much when you found out what the twist was, or the twists. And like I said, I'll go back to my original thought. Like, it's a two-piece movie. Like, the first part was like, you know, it kind of goes, talks about this girl, or, you know, there's like this, you know, shorter, smaller aspect ratio. So it's like the past. And then you see the agent in the briefing room with a partner that you think would be like part of it. Well, he dies almost immediately, but then she totally just guesses that where this killer was in this apartment complex. And so there's some decision that she's psychic. But in the end of the movie, that doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter. There's nothing that says something about like her being psychic or having these powers that like made any difference in the movie.
I think it's like a contrivance that allows them to skip it. I think it's their only bulwark against stuff that's like, how did she know about the inverted triangle? It's like, it was a plot mechanism. It was like the way that they had to move the plot forward. They were like, well, how could she know that stuff? I don't know. She's psychic.
Yeah.
And it's it's a contrivance that you're right. I mean, like, I didn't feel like it really played into the movie in the second or third act. It was like a way for them to expedite into like, somehow she knows this stuff. Don't worry about it. She's psychic.
Yeah. And, you know, there's a survivor that they talk about. They talk to her, and, you know, there's some like, you know, just obvious, you know, spiritual thing going on that you kind of pick up on. And then it turns out Longlegs was kind of the physical guide to like this physical bridge to like the demon, or I guess it's literally Satan. Literally, it's Satan, which to me is like, it's just almost like, it almost becomes like too comical, because then you start to see imagery of Satan throughout like the very end, you know, in different ways, like through window, like definitely like it's a silhouette, like you don't see anything else, but it's a silhouette of a tall goat figure with big horns.
Well, okay, so I feel like we've talked a lot about what happens. Like, I don't necessarily think we should focus too much on like recapping the story as much as like.
Well, I'm just saying, like, my point was that again, the front and the end are the first parts and the end parts are just like dissimilar enough to be like two completely different movies. And even the parts, there was like part 1, part 2, part 3, right? That I don't even see that. Like, I don't even see why that was necessary to like break up the film at all.
I mean, I think it seemed like it was like purely a stylistic choice, like trying to elevate the movie as if it's a book. Here's part 1 of the book, 2 and 3. But you're right. Like, I don't feel like it added anything to the movie.
Right.
It seemed like it was more. I feel like the style was very clear what they're going for. They're going for this Zodiac killer-like meets supernatural element. Mm-hmm. Very, like, a lot of the set work is really meticulous. There's a heavy use of just like the way that they position the sets. It's very like it's very balanced. It's like very intentional. Everything feels very intentional from the style perspective, but it just doesn't feel like a real place and real people and real conversations at all. Mm-hmm. It just, like, the way that you mentioned it before, like the way that the main character talks to her mom is like, who talks to anybody like this? Yeah, it's like,
it is really strange.
It's peculiar. It's stilted. And look, I get it. Like, that can be effective, but it feels very contrived. It feels like the style got in the way of telling a more grounded story that I think would have really helped. I think that, I mean, we haven't really even talked about like Nicolas Cage and what we thought about Nicolas Cage. I don't know. Like, what did you think about Nicolas Cage in this particular role?
I've never seen him in other films with that he acts like horrifying. I thought he did a great. I liked his character. I thought that they should have built that up as he was. He just in the end felt way more just like subdued than I would have imagined. You know, because I think they wanted to tie that satanic element so well. And to me, it almost diminishes his character. I wouldn't even say a little bit. I think it does a lot. You know, I will say like he does play a great, like really creepy, psychotic character. And I liked his character a lot. I thought, I don't know. I wasn't saying it could be creepier, but I think with the guidelines that they wanted the character to be, I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, like the like prosthetics and makeup work they do on him looks really good. I think that this is a role that really suits him because he's the kind of actor that you may not love the thing he's in, but he always just goes for it. He's always going for it. He's always trying to like go to 11 in whatever character role that he's playing. Mm-hmm. See, I kind of felt like whenever you're seeing his conversation with Lee at the end, it almost felt more parodied, or maybe not parodied, but like a caricature. It just like there were times where I felt like they were like, look at this crazy Satan guy. He says Satan-y stuff, and it's like, again, like I really liked him in this role, but I think that the movie could have been better by just grounding it a little bit more. Yeah. Because I think that up to that point, he was mysterious. Yeah. He was featured every now and then.
Right.
His interactions were jarring, obviously. And I think like at the end, it just became like, it's like the people who wrote this movie were like, okay, what would a person who's obsessed with Satan start saying? He would sing weird songs, and he would mutter to himself, and he would, he would say at the end before he kills himself, "Hail Satan." It's like, I don't know, it just breaches almost caricature parody at that point for me.
Yeah, I think about the why too. I think about like the why. Why is this character there? And I think of like, I mean, the whole like bottom line relationship with the main character, Lee Harker, the FBI agent, psychic. She, there's that connection with his personal family. So like he coerces Lee's mother to deliver these satanic dolls to these houses to what? Right? That's the what. Like, so like the why. So first of all, why does he do that? Like, that doesn't really explain itself. Like, is he just a psycho? Is he just like, did he communicate with Satan and like he gave, he was ordered by, maybe the film doesn't need to explore those options, but to me, it just the ending felt very shallow because then we know that the dolls are there and there's these silver orbs in their heads. And I don't know what that stands for because Lee had a doll like that. And the mother shot it. It burst, and then Lee felt, obviously had some type of physical reaction to a metaphorical thing. And
well, actually, I thought it was pretty literal because they said that he put his magic into it, which is like prevents the victims of these murders from recalling anything about him. That's why she didn't know any of that stuff. That's why she couldn't remember.
All right, that's fair.
She couldn't remember anything about. Remember, like she said that when the chief of the FBI had said, "Listen, you need to talk to your mom because it sounds like you met somebody who seems to fit the bill of what we had saw with these serial killers when you were 9."
Yeah,
she doesn't remember any of it. She doesn't recall any of it. And then as soon as this orb is destroyed inside of this doll, she's allowed to.
That's a good point. Yeah, it does have this. Yeah, that's true. So, but then like the other whys, they talk about. I was thinking about the questions about birthdays. Like, why are they on the 14th? What is significant about that? And they talk about they'll do it. The mom said that she will continue to go in. She's the trusted nurse that like people would let in. And she's like, oh, you won a prize from the church, which to me is like, first of all, why? But like I'm getting kind of caught up here because now I'm thinking of like, the timeline. Like there was a lot of like 70s elements included, but there was like the president, there was Bill Clinton. So it's like, you think it's like 94 or whatever.
Well, I mean, they are time jumping.
Yeah, but no,
tell the story.
No,
yeah.
I know, but like even the character, the nurse, like the mom at the end, was wearing like a very like pilgrim-ish outfit, right? She had like the bonnet on. I don't know if I've seen many people say like they're from the church and there's a gift. Anyways, I don't even remember what my original point was, but like, I'll be honest. But
yeah, I mean, like
it seems all trivial. That's my end point. It just seems like, why do that? Like, if that was the point, and like, why is it on their birthday? Like, why is Satan killing people on their birthday on the 14th? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, like, so. And maybe you're asking this more rhetorically than you are like saying, like you didn't understand it,
right?
But like, Longlegs meets up at the very beginning of the movie with the main character that is later the Lee from the FBI, and she was about to die, but to spare her life, her mother agreed and said, "Listen, I will aid you in killing people," and the way that he could get into these people's homes, whether that was literal or metaphorically speaking, was to have somebody trusted, somebody who was part of the church, come in and say, "Hey, you've just won a doll for some reason." Like,
what I mean is, what I mean is, it just doesn't make any sense. Like the doll that she got was like, I think that's kind of like what you're seeing. It's the very first thing that you see, or well, like in her memory, whenever I guess that orb is shattered, you hear memories. Or you recall things again, was that like Longlegs gave her a doll. Remember, because I think that was his thing, is like he probably freaked this person out enough. Like he probably, well, I don't know. Like it was weird because Satan was in the car. Did you see that in the beginning, or like when they re-showed it? They showed like a figure. Maybe it wasn't. There was a figure in that like that whatever station wagon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and to me it was just like. Again, the whole why argument just stands out. Like, why would he do? I mean, is he just?
I mean, maybe I think he's just a serial killer and he just wants to kill people.
Yeah, but then why does Satan tie into that?
I think it's,
to make it spooky.
Yeah, I literally think it's that reason. Yeah, I think it is as shallow as just saying it is spooky, and it separates a movie like this from something like Zodiac.
But I thought...
Well, the other thing, too, is, I mean, the other reason why I think Satan plays into it is because there is a level of supernatural magic involved. Like, he is literally, like, it is not like a metaphor. He is literally using magic to imbue a hex in this metal object in the doll to suppress the victim's memories.
Yeah.
And if it's destroyed, then the hex is no longer there. Which is why at the end of the movie, whenever she rescues Ruby and she tries to destroy it, she can't. And then she almost resigns herself to saying, you know what? Maybe it's better she won't remember any of this. And then she leaves. As a way of saying, like, do I really want to have this little girl remember this horrible event that just happened that I just rescued her from? I don't know. I mean, like, I think this is a movie that is stylistically very interesting, very compelling, does a lot of cool stuff. It like you and I talked about this, like it does successfully make you feel dread. Like it is eerie, it is captivating, but I feel like as soon as they're like, okay, well, now we have to actually put plot and substance into this and have conversations between characters, it feels stilted. It feels like they continue to just extend, like they bide themselves time by just drawing more style. It's like, okay, well, what if her mom and her talk weird together too? And it's like, yeah, I guess they could do that, but it also feels like a pretty unnatural conversation. So
Yeah.
Like I really liked what it was doing stylistically, but I just think it can't carry this movie all the way through.
Yeah, some of it was lost in those, even if they're so short. But it's funny because even them talking on the phone felt pretty normal.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Remember
like
that?
there were huge pauses between stuff, but
Yeah.
but you're right. Like,
It
I mean,
was very
the
quick,
actual
yeah.
substance of the conversation
Because
was
even
very
the mom was
normal.
like, "Are you okay? Hey, are you
Yeah.
there?" And then she
Are you
calls
gonna be
back.
there for your birthday?
But then when you meet her, you're like, "This person seems entirely
out of your mind. Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
completely different." And I don't get that. I think that was a goof. I think they goofed on that, and I don't know if that was intentional or like maybe the mom has a doll somewhere. I don't know. But I know that she was doing it to keep her alive,
Right.
which I think is right. At the very beginning, there was some T-Rex lyrics. I don't know if that's the artist's name. Something about like the jewels. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But I think it was something alluding to the reason why she was doing that for her daughter was like she didn't want her to die, and that's fair. You know, that's fair and fine, especially when you're dealing with works of the devil. I guess especially. If you've seen it. But again, the whole connection there, it just felt very forced. And like I said, it just was kind of like, it kind of meant, it's like a scary Zodiac with a supernatural element. And it just feels like it's so forced. Like, and I was going to say this too, was the jump scares. Like, I don't mind jump scares. Jump scares don't bother me. But I'll tell you what, jump scares don't leave me thinking that movie was... It doesn't help me. It doesn't make me want to linger on a movie too long when they're just scaring you with jump scares.
Yeah, like it's fine to have them, but when you rely solely on them, it's like a lack of like it's a lack. It means for sure the next time you watch it, it's like, well, you expect it. So if they're relying on it, then it's kind of cheap because the second time you watch it, if you watch it again, it's like, okay, well, it won't be effective.
Yeah, there was like a psychic element whenever she was looking at the pictures in her room. Right,
yeah.
Which then that was like the big jump scare, which is like a big scream and like flashing imagery. To me, it's just like that almost kind of pisses me off. But like it just kind of dumbs down the like the reason to be scared, I guess, because there was some relationship that just kind of that's like the beginning of, you know, how you understand that there was a relationship between Longlegs and her personally. But, you know,
I think the thing that's weird to me is, I mean, there's a lot that's weird to me in this movie, but like the heel turn that the chief does at the end of the movie, whenever he's like absolutely the most normal character, he is like the closest thing to a person you talk to in real life. And at the end, he's like, he's somehow swept up into this, like, I actually am going to kill my whole family now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. The doll shows up and it causes this occurrence, but it also, like, it feels silly. Like, it feels silly to me that, like, the source of this, you're waiting this whole movie to figure out, like, how is Longlegs, who is not present at the murders, killing people? Mm-hmm. And you're like, I don't know. And it ends up being dolls. And you're like, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure though?
You know, and it does. There's some like exposition about like, oh, dolls can hold magic and stuff. And if that's like all that they're going on, like it's fine. But it just like, I feel like it could be so much more detrimental if it was like something else. Like you talk about like movies we've seen, like When Evil Lurks, like Electricity. I mean, although we did absolutely, you know, roast the hell out of that. I mean, and that's a little ridiculous, but I mean, dolls are creepy. If you hate dolls, then boy, you hate this movie because those dolls are they're freaky. They're like super realistic, but I guess that kind of alludes to also that there's no real power anymore to get Satan in the doors of people's homes because the dolls aren't being created.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, like, the visuals are pretty effective. I think that, like, the way they do a really good job of subtly including, like, the goat imagery of Satan or the demon or whatever. Like,
towards the
I
end.
know that, like, he talks about worshiping Satan. I'm not so sure if it was Satan himself that's part of this, or is it like a demon? But in any case, like, I think that they do a good job of making those things subtle, because I think other movies might be like really in your face about it to a point where it's like it feels a little less impactful, because I think when you rewound it when we were watching it, and it was like, oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
So like I think it's more effective when you can almost just miss it.
Yeah, I think so.
But like, so I don't know. I hate that, you know, these movies that we watch, I often feel very critical of them, but I also think I think that this could have been, I think this was an okay movie, but it could have been a good movie. I think that the elements were there to become really good. And I think like the components are there for a good movie, but I think the execution is just, it's not there. Like it's just not there for me. I think that the style wise, it's really, really good, but I think it's just like not quite there.
Yeah. I'd say like a movie with such a narrow focus feels like it's grabbing pieces that just feel so far-fetched that it becomes almost like inconsistent and spooky for reasons, I don't know, just different reasons than it should be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like there were plenty of times where you're watching this girl who's an FBI agent, and sometimes you forget that she's like a capable FBI agent. Like sometimes the decision making she has is like it just makes no sense, or like she is so rattled all the time that you're like, you know, if she had maintained more of her composure, it would have felt a little bit more. I don't know, like and the way that people talk together, it just doesn't feel very natural, which might be what they were going for, but it doesn't feel very effective to me.
Yeah. That was funny. The part that makes me laugh is like, you're talking about an FBI agent. I'm talking about the main captain guy. He sees the pattern. The birthdays are always on the 14th, right? And what does he have? He has a daughter whose birthday's on the 14th.
Yeah.
Now, if that was the case, wouldn't you think that it's so blanking weird that some random woman I guess she knows him. It's the mom, right? But comes in this, you know, pilgrim's outfit, says she's a nurse, and gives them this doll. Like a doll that, well, I guess they didn't know it was a doll, but like, wouldn't you be able to be like a little suspect of the events that are going on?
But it's almost like as soon as the doll is in the house, they didn't even acknowledge her. Like I don't think I remember any of those people in the house acknowledging her presence at that point.
Yeah.
She was sitting there. They were talking to Lee, but they like were not even looking at her mom.
I'm just saying, like, there had to have been an interaction to like let her in the house. Like, to me, it just feels like you would feel something very strange, especially when you have a big box.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess
that felt just like the FBI agent to me. I'd be like, this is weird. Like,
so I guess
what
like,
is in that?
Here's where like maybe this helps like encapsulate some of my criticism for this movie, is that the movie is using a lot of plot contrivances to be like, okay, this person is in the library and looking up inverted triangles, like creating all sorts of like incredible coincidences to draw conclusions from. And yet, like, what was the common thing between all these houses? They all had a massive lifelike doll between them. Yeah. And like, that somehow wasn't a common thread. They were like, well, okay, hold on. They were all on the 14th. And there's these triangles. And I don't know, like maybe there's a connection
yeah.
there. And you know what? We have no leads. Let's bring in a potential psychic. It's like, do all the houses not have dolls? Like, is that not suspicious?
Well, the one that we found was hidden. So I mean I don't know like if
You're true. Yeah, that's right. Like the one that was in the
But
barn, it was buried underneath the floorboards.
Yeah. But does the doll disappear when everyone's dead? Was the only reason why the doll was still alive was because the girl was alive?
I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking, because that was the Carrie Ann. She was the only one who was left, and that doll was hiding in a barn.
Yeah.
And then, but interestingly, like if Longlegs didn't want to be found, then why did he give her clues to the location of that doll?
And maybe at that point, like, he wanted her to find it, but it does seem, I mean, you and I talked about this when we were watching it, is maybe he had to have come back and put those X's there, because, like,
Yeah.
it was so incredible. Like, if you were surveying that scene as a police officer because it was the site of a murder, it is so incredibly obvious that there are traces leading you up to. It might as well have been a map that had that and said, "Hey, look under the floorboard in the attic." I don't know. I mean, like, that's fair. They could have maybe not seen those dolls because they were hidden intentionally. Yeah. I do think that, I don't know. I guess, like, maybe wrapping up my thoughts is, like, I think this is worth watching. I'm glad I watched it. I had heard a lot about it. I think that it was very successful, I think, in the box office, simply because I think that people had said, like, oh my gosh, you won't even believe what Nicolas Cage looks like. Yeah. I think that was really effective. And I think that, like, for me, I guess I'm more disappointed in the fact that this is a movie that had the components to be much better than what I thought it was. Mm-hmm. I think that there was so much there for it to work with. It's almost like the second draft or third draft of this same movie with, like, the same material would have been a lot better. Maybe not as good as, like, a movie that I would say is, like, somewhat comparable, like Silence of the Lambs. Like, I don't think it could achieve, like, that level of excellence, but I think that it could be a very good movie. I didn't find it to be that good. I found a lot of, like, weird, bizarre things that kept me from really considering it very believable, I guess.
Yeah. I'd say all the same stuff. I think I will say I was entertained. It was kind of spooky. It had, like, elements of things I like. I watched the Zodiac, and I really like those elements of, like, mystery and, like, cryptic messages, although in this case it felt like far more just forced, but also the Zodiac Killer was all based on a real story. So I would agree with all that stuff. I thought it was okay. It could have been better, but Nic Cage outperformed. I thought that was great. I thought the characters did a pretty good job, but those character interactions with each other were very, very strange.
One thing I will say, though, is that the guy who directed this is Osgood Perkins, and I was like, man, that name is so familiar. Why is that so familiar to me? Did you ever see The Blackcoat's Daughter? Mm-mm. He did that movie. I think that's a pretty good movie. I think it is very tonally similar to this, but I think it does a better job of presenting characters that behave more naturally. Yeah. There is, of course, this, like, undertone of eeriness and spookiness and, like, a lot of the same sort of undertones that this movie has, but it's maybe not as heavy-handed. I thought that was really good. Yeah. He also did I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. I saw this movie, apparently, and I apparently liked it, but I don't remember a whole lot of it. Mm-hmm. But I would say that his movie, The Blackcoat's Daughter, I find to be better. Yeah. And it was released 2016? No, 2015. Yeah. I think it's on it was on Netflix and it was on, like, HBO Max. It's not anymore.
Gotcha. Well, if you like that one, check it out, and if you have any comments, let us know. And how do we end this one?
Well, he starred in Not Another Teen Movie, so you know what? Go see Not Another Teen Movie.
Yep. Gonna be good. And 3, 2, 1, movie time.
Movie time, baby.
Baby.